Hey, this is my EU for Portugal playthrough. Now, Portugal is not the type of playthrough I wanted to record all the way through because very much like Prussia or Germany, which was actually the same Brandenburg playthrough, it's a late game strategy. It's really boring in the early game and then super fun in the late game. So the early game of Portugal is basically you're just attempting to colonize as much of South America and these islands and this stuff as you can before England and Spain can start contributing. And part of that strategy is boxing them out and whatever. But basically, Portugal starts with 3 explorers, and no one else starts with any. So if you just immediately buy a +3 administrative power guy to unlock your first colonist as fast as possible, and then all game keep a +3 diplomatic power guy, and just keep dumping all your money into admin and diplomatic power so that you get your second and your third colonist faster than anyone else, then eventually you'll have the most powerful colonies. And then that gives you a bajillion dollars. Now, as any rich nation that put all of their ideas into non-military things, being rich doesn't mean you can actually fight. So you need to outnumber your opponents 2-1 anytime you're fighting a Western European power. So in order to kill Spain, what you want to do is take the fact that your income is 250 and theirs isn't, and build up about double their army size, wait right next to them until their army is visible, and then declare war and go kill their army and carpet siege their nonsense, and you win. But before you start that, I'd really recommend going all the way to 1600, which is 160 years, doing nothing but colonizing, because any penny you spend on something other than colonizing is just catch-up you're going to have to play later. So most of what playing Portugal was to me, the way I did it and the way I'd recommend you do it, is just kind of 5xing and throwing down colonists, which is not a super fun playstyle. I did enjoy having a ridiculous amount of money with almost no actual land and no army. And I do enjoy having these giant vassals that will always be vassals. I've always kind of enjoyed having really large vassals that will fight my wars for me. So I can declare war on Spain, and for example, these guys are just going to siege up all of the Spanish stuff, and then in war, like right now, I could take all of this stuff and it would grant me more monies. And see how the war score cost of it is like 2. So taking colonies is super fun and super easy. You can get huge swaths of land for basically for free, and it doesn't piss anyone off. So the traditional game of just always trying to balance the coalition against you as you expand throughout the world, it's not as much of a problem with Portugal because you can just keep taking colonies and killing people that nobody cares about. Also, I really enjoy that the colonies fight for themselves instead of forcing me to have lots of different armies in different places, because I never really liked that. Anyway, as far as trade goes, for most of the game, you're going to want to just collect from trade at all of your colonial places. It's not until really late when you can actually secure like 90% power in your base node and then 90% power in this node that it really makes any sense to forward money on from elsewhere. The highest I've gotten my trade income was like 120. The problem is with Venice, you're at an end node. So you just get maximum power here and then get maximum power here and then get maximum power here, and then you just pass from one node to another in a long line. But Seville isn't really an end node, and this node is controlled only by ships. So in order to have full control of this node, you need to have a ton of ships. So it's not only does that mean that you personally need a bunch of ships, but you need to make sure that nobody else has a bunch of ships. So you got to keep Britain weak, you got to keep France and Burgundy and whoever else weak, so that you're the only one with a ton of ships in that node. So in the early game, it's almost always better to just take the money, pull it out of the ground. Anyway. So Rio de la Plata, South America, can pass up to Brazil, which can pass up to this Moroccan territory, which can pass up to the Western European, which can pass to Seville. But notice how all of that goes through this Western European trade node, which is the same node that all these other great powers are using. So that's why transferring power in the early game doesn't make a lot of sense. You can also go around and transfer power this way. over to Caribase, and I have most of the trade control in Caribase. And then you can pass from here up to here, and then pass from here up to here, and then pass from here over to Western Europe. And I'm sure if I completed that route, I actually have enough merchants at this point to complete that route. But I don't have enough trade power here and here, and I don't have enough ships to get my trade power up and enough nodes to make it more profitable than collecting. So currently collecting from trade I make about 120, and transferring from trade I make about 130. Right now my merchants are not actually transferring because I just reassigned them, so it says that my trade income is only 57, but that's a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. So tariffs, 112 income from tariffs. That is super cool. I love the new tariff interface. Basically, you decide what percentage of your colony's income is taxed. And this is the tariff efficiency, not the base tariff rate. So underneath is the base tariff rate. But anyway, you can see how a lot of these colonies are providing me $39, $11, $11, $15. It's pretty cool. You just get a bunch of money for having a bunch of territories off to the side. So anytime you're playing a rich nation, you can afford to have +3/+3/+3 advisors all the time. You can afford to run like 4 to 7 colonists. For a while, I was actually profitably running 7 colonists while I was colonizing South America. Your first 3 colonists are basically free. They cost like $8, and then every colonist after that costs 10 more, than 20 more, than 40 more, kind of thing. So it's ridiculously expensive, but you're crazy rich, so it doesn't matter how expensive it is. Anyway, what I really wanted to show you was one of the skills you're going to need to master in order to play Portugal, or at least to play it the way that I've played it, is how to win fights when you don't have any military ideas. So you can see in this fight, I have way fewer infantry than them. I got a lot of cannons on the front line. Basically, because I'm crazy rich, I'm going to do what I do with Burgundy, which is have tons of mercenary infantry and then tons of manpower cannons. Now, you have a very high force limit and a very low manpower. For much of the game, you're going to have something like 18,000 manpower, but like 50,000 force limits. So you're going to want to use a lot of mercenaries because you're so rich that, like, what else are you going to put your money into? So in a fight like this where it's 42 against 37, I'm probably going to lose that fight, so you have a second army. Now what you could do is take both armies and go in and crush 100,000 against 37,000, but then sometimes you lose that fight even though you have twice as many troops as them. So what's much better is you start with one group and fight for a little while. When they get to about half morale, then you send in the second group. And then when the second group gets there, you're going to retreat the first group and spend a little time recouping your morale and then send them back in before the fight even ends. So when you pull out one guy, it doesn't end the fight. So this guy can pull out and wait 2 months while his morale regenerates and then go right back in. So right now his morale is regenerating. So he can go back in. Boop, see, there's another tick of morale and a tick of resupply and stuff. So I found myself using the resupply speed advisor a lot, and I found myself having 3 armies that would constantly go in and come out, especially to beat Spain. Like, it took me like 100,000 troops against their 70. So and I have to lose a lot of fights because in these fights, my problem is low morale and low discipline, right? But even with low discipline, even as Prussia with 155% discipline against people with 100% discipline, you don't kill that many more troops than them. The real risk is morale. When you shatter someone's morale multiple times, or you shatter it within the first month of combat, then their whole army disappears. So you kill 30,000 troops all at once. But with Portugal, or with Portugal, you don't do the damage and you don't have the morale to do that kind of thing. So instead, you know that each fight is gonna end with a retreat, and at the end of the retreat, even if they have 50% more discipline than you, you're gonna kill basically the same number of troops as them. So that means as long as you can keep the battles going for a long time by darting in and out, you're going to kill the same number of troops as they kill. And because they're killing mercenaries, which only cost gold, and you have like 400 gold per month of income when your trade is all set up. Mine's currently not set up. You can afford to lose millions of bajillions of mercenaries. You just want to avoid having your entire army be shattered and then shattered again, because then they'll disappear. But as long as they don't disappear, You can just keep funding mercenaries over and over forever and ever and ever. I also found that it makes the game way less frustrating to get the naval idea, which allows your ships to repair themselves whenever they're in shallow water, and just to have no army whatsoever in the early game. So right now I have 283 ships. 50 of those are heavy ships, and anytime I get in a war, I can just blockade everyone, and I never have to worry about micromanaging my stupid ships. But for the first maybe 100 years, I didn't have any ships. I had like 6 cogs and 1 heavy ship to kill pirates and nothing else. And you'll find that your trade income with 280 ships might be 200 or 120 or something. And with 0 ships, it might be 45 or 80. But the cost of the ships is about the same as the benefit of the ships, because you have to maintain those heavy ships in order to not lose all of your light ships in wars. So when you're playing peacefully, by all means, get a ton of light ships and nothing else. But when you plan to fight lots of wars against colonial powers, you need a lot of heavy ships or no ships, one or the other. And I always go with no ships. So as far as ideas, I went straight into exploration and then expansion and then economy. And then I went naval and trade. And I just have no military ideas at all. So all of my fights are like this. This is actually like 100,000 troops against 30,000 or 37,000 troops. And you can see I'm just barely winning the fight. But at the end, it's going to tell me how many people died on each side. Right here. And you'll notice I lost 13 plus 3 plus 3, and he lost 18 plus 30. So he actually lost a lot more troops than me. I lost a lot more troops than him. Sorry. How did I lose 30,000 cannons, man? I didn't have enough infantry. Anyway, you'll find that even though in this case it didn't work out that way, traditionally you'll lose about 20% more or about the same amount. It's just the morale that you're fighting with. It's not the troop loss. And make sure to have enough mercenary infantry to tank for your cannons, or else you'll lose a bunch like I just did, and that will be ever so sad. As for, I don't even think there's anything else, man. So Aragon is my vassal. They're gonna be annexed pretty soon, and that will give me 100% power in this trade node. And then I can finally complete the Western European route along the whatever. And I'm gonna eat up the rest of South America, and then all of my South American troops will just be going north along the Panama Canal kind of stuff into here, and it's good times. So anyway, I think that's going to be the end of my Portugal playthrough. I had never done a colonial power to this extent before, and I found it a lot less tedious than I expected. But the game is really mostly about 5xing it, and it's got a slow beginning. I wouldn't want to watch it. It's something that's good to do while you're watching Game of Thrones or some TV show. So give it a shot, man. Them there, Portugal, them there. Also, I'm not going to delete this save game file. I might come back to it sometime in the future. And if I ever do come back to it, I'd like to know if there's a better way to do trade. Because, for example, you can go this route. Like, you could pass from here to here to here to here to here. And then you can get a lot more trade power in this node by taking out Savoy and killing Milan and taking these islands and stuff. But I don't know. I find that whenever you start fighting lots of wars in Western Europe, the whole game becomes about fighting in Western Europe, because you get so much aggressive expansion that everyone keeps attacking you. Fighting off in the West is much more calming, because you're the one who gets to declare every war. You're way more powerful than all your enemies, and most importantly, territories only cost like 1 or 2 administrative power to core, so you can take huge swaths of land over and over and over. It's kind of like reminiscent of playing Ming. Like, you can just take over the whole world. And stuff. So anyway, I avoided colonizing in Africa because I knew from prior experience that it doesn't actually form a colonial region. There's this colonial region map mode thing that you go right here. So this is colonial Brazil, colonial La Plata, colonial Peru, like that. So all of the new world is broken up into these little colonial things, but Africa isn't. So whenever you colonize in Africa, like for example, this thing is giving me $3, and this is giving me 6 and 6. They give you a reasonable amount of money, but compared to the amount of money it takes to sit armies there and colonize there, it's not really. I don't know. I didn't find it to be super worth it. So anyway, see ya.